Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello out there in internet land. It is Tuesday. It is time for a reasonably fine art talk. And I thought today it might be fun to do a what's on the easel. What's on the easel today? People ask me all the time, what's on the easel? So let's come with me with Miss Betty Sue in the background. Down there in Austin, Texas, she's pulling the strings. I'm just up here in Vermont blathering. Here's what my studio looked like as of 8 o'clock this morning. Studio cat Corduroy was busy eating she was not having her kibble yet because she has wet food first and then she has her kibble because she lives for kibble. You can actually influence her opinion about art if you promise kibble. Anyway, what you see here, this is taken from my further back viewing area. The easel is 4 feet wide, okay? So the painting that is up on the easel right now is a 2 foot by 4 foot. The very similar painting that's immediately to its right and on the ground is 3 feet by 6 feet. And I may do a reasonably fine art talk about this particular image if I ever get it to a place that I like. But I just wanted you to see the number of pieces that are basically in play at any time. There is another easel to the left of the main easel that you can't see in this picture. Then there's the easel to the right, another easel to the right of that has the color charts on it. And then there's also easel behind me. But the main work takes place at the big easel and the drawing table, which is over there on the left. You will see on the bottom right here is another 3 foot by 6 foot painting that will be the topic of our discussion today. Now, this painting is of the Bellows Falls train station. Could we have the next slide, Miss Betty Sue? The next slide. This is the Bellows Falls train station. And this photo was taken in March. A nice gloomy day. And for me, no, let's go back to the previous slide. Yeah. For me, this is a very evocative place. This is, in fiction, there's a device called the right object. And it is a object that kind of appears throughout a story. In Forrest Gump, the movie, for instance, there is that feather that keeps appearing, falling through the air. For me, the Bellows Falls train station is sort of a right object. I've been coming here my whole life, from when I was like 10 years old. My studio is now about 300 yards from here. I remember one time between high school and college, catching the midnight train, the Montrealer, heading south, and it was like 3.5 hours late, and I kicked around in the middle of the night. It was supposed to come through at about 1 a.m. It finally came through at about 4 a.m. But I climbed that signal mast back there. That's the thing, the 3 circles. So this is just a place that's full of not emotion. It's full of memory. It's full of it's a place I return to in my life, and I love the prospect looking down those tracks. I will say one thing that's tricky to draw is the tracks curve weirdly beyond the station before going over that bridge in the far distance. It's very hard to get that right. But anyway, so I snapped this photo in March, and recently I was just wanting to generate some contemporary imagery rather than just childhood imagery or working from old photos. So I dragged this photo out of my archives and decided to work on a painting of it. Let's take you through the steps. Next slide, please, Ms. Betty Sue. Now, of late, you guys are aware that of late I have been enjoying painting on top of old paintings. I did not have a 3-foot by 6-foot junk painting sitting around. So I took a blank canvas and just kind of threw some stainy paint on there, just so I had something to work against. This is just acrylic paint, so it dried overnight. And then the next day, I projected that photograph, reduced to black and white, onto this 3-foot by 6-foot canvas. That gave me kind of my jumping off place. The image, the nominal image, is the armature on which I will be building the painting. Next slide, please, Betty Sue. So here is my first pass on the painting. Again, so this is from my medium standing back point. So it's probably about, what, 10, 12 feet away. And I have applied a very thin, watery acrylic version of what we call my muck, my murk color, which is, it is this particular, in acrylic, it's burnt sienna and a golden it's golden viridian hue. It's kind of an awful color, but then I added a bunch of medium, and then I just did a very watery pass. So that took us to here. Then I sat back, drank coffee, and went, Next slide, please, Betty Sue. Next slide. So then, after the first pass, I did a second pass. And when I did the second pass, I thought, well, maybe it'd be more interesting if I flip that upside down. Can we go back to the previous slide, Betty Sue? I kind of liked, this all of a sudden seemed kind of boring to me to have the horizon line so low and have the great big sky. We've all seen a zillion paintings with horizon line low and great big sky. So I thought, well, maybe it'd be more interesting if I flipped it the other way. So let's go, yeah. So this is the slide. This is the same 3-foot by 6-foot, but I turned it upside down, and I turned the tree on the right, the tree on the left that's now on the right, I turned those into railroad tracks. And I thought that was fairly interesting. But then I flipped it the other way again. Next slide, please, Betty Sue. And I went back to thinking, I prefer this. This is more interesting to me. Now, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, this is all in acrylic. I have not put any oil onto the surface yet. That allows me to do very quick playing around with the composition. I don't like the final look of acrylic, but virtually all this paint is going to get covered up with other paint. So it's a wonderful tool for experimenting with composition. Notice on the right, the train station, and then the next major object. You see the railroad tracks in the foreground receding toward the background with that bridge. Between the train station and the bridge, I painted out the mountain. I decided I wanted to see what would happen if I knocked the horizon line way, way down. Nothing very interesting. And let's see, over on the right, I'm just letting kind of mess happen. I'm not worrying about things too much. Next slide, please, Betty Sue. So this is the next pass. This is now the second, no, this is the third pass. And is it unusual for me to start with acrylic like this? If I was doing a plein air piece, yeah, I would just be working in pure oil. In the studio, generally, this year, now that I'm spending so much time in the studio, it's now not unusual for me to start working with acrylic. though, again, if I'm painting on top of an old painting, I'm not going to be working in acrylic, just because you cannot put acrylic on top of oil. But you can put oil on top of acrylic. Anyway, so I did this is another pass where, go back one slide, Betty Sue. So I needed to get rid of the railroad track that I had put in before that is now like a maple tree with a red baton pointing to the right. I needed to get rid of all of that. And I also was feeling like I was getting too dark in my darkest darks here. Again, I'm still working in acrylic, and I like working in transparent colors. So move forward again, Betty Sue. And so I put a very watery white mix on top of just about everything. And it's just drippy, just letting it happen. So again, I have my big shapes, but I really don't have my final values at all. Next slide, please. So this is where we are. Yeah, fourth pass. That's the next one. This is the step after that previous one. You'll see there's now kind of a orangey yellow hue. That was because I was working on another painting, and I had a paint roller that I was starting to rinse out, but it had a bunch of kind of orangey acrylic on it. And so I just quickly rolled it across to warm up that background, because I didn't want it to, I want it to be cold, but I want there to be little warm elements in it. We're going for that kind of March. It's probably a little bit above it is above freezing. So there's a lot of moisture in the air. So there are bits of warmth in the predominantly cold environment. Again, I'm starting to darken down certain areas. You'll see look at the tree over on, not the far left tree, the middle left tree, not the Bernie Sanders tree, kind of the more Pete Buttigieg tree, center left, not far left. I'm starting to paint in the branches on that, because I want there to be some strong verticals. So the tree is providing a vertical. The switch stand, that's the object to the right of the tree that goes down into the white foreground. And then the railroad tracks. And then we've got the train station. Now if you'll remember, there were the signals, the signal that I climbed when I was a bored teenager at 3 in the morning. So there are more verticals coming in, but I really want to establish the tree at this point, because that natural vertical on the left is balanced by the heavy man-made object of the train station on the right. Mr. Fryer says both the high and the low horizon line work really well. Is the horizon line usually my first determining factor in dividing up the rectangle? Verticals, diagonals. It is the horizon line, very much so. I really let the diagonals, I let take care of themselves. I really don't think those through very much early on. Though you saw that experimental railroad track heading up in this orientation, be heading toward the upper right. But yeah, horizon line is really, that's determined, is it a story about the earth? Is it a story about the sky? You know. Let's go to where it is right now, Betty Sue. Now, I've started to apply oils. This is as it is in the studio at the moment. I want there to be notes of color, but it's going to be predominantly a study in grays, right? So the train station has those beautiful elements of, in reality, has these beautiful elements of the brick of the walls, and then the green of the wood trim on top. It's not inherently a very pretty structure, but I think the harmonies of it are perfect. And it's also those two colors, the red and the green, are what make up my base color. And then all the gray tones are really just those two colors and unbleached titanium, maybe a little Payne's gray added for a bluish note. But I'm really, it's using, the white is Kills primer, okay? But anything that's off-white through gray, through the darkest darks, is burnt sienna, viridian. There's the swoosh of the acrylic, which was transparent yellow oxide and a little bit of transparent red oxide. So burnt sienna, viridian, olive green, and oil, because Cobra water mixable oils, they do not make a viridian, and I use their olive green in lieu of viridian, and Payne's gray and unbleached titanium. That's it. So that's going to be, this painting is going to be a study in those four colors. Did you consider a semi-frozen water feature reflecting the trees, etc.? No, I'm still, at this point, I'm still basing on the actual reality. This is a similar layout to like a Dave Santalantes or Dennis Sheehan painting, where they've got the frozen stream coming into the foreground. I'm just using railroad tracks as the device to move the eye into the background. When I look at this now, I am feeling like I like the heaviness toward the right and the more etherealness toward the left, but I want to define what is happening in the background on the left a little bit more. I also, the line between the fence, that is the vertical, the diagonal that's coming in from the lower left up toward the switch stand. I want to soften that a little bit. That feels a little hard right now. So what I'm going to be doing now a lot is softening edges, playing with where pure white is going to cut in vertically into the background. I'm going to play with the hardness and softness of the hills. So there's going to be just a lot of kind of focusing, letting go, focusing, letting go. I find it's really easy to overwork paintings at this stage, which is, can we go back now to the picture of the studio, Betty Sue? That means flipping all the way back. I do understand that. But yeah, that's why I like having many projects going at once when I'm working like this scale and this this abstractly. I want to be able to walk away from a painting. I want to be able to keep my mind occupied with design decisions in other paintings, and then go back to this one when it's entirely dry and I haven't overthought it. Because one of the things that we always are doing as painters is we want to be affecting the surface we're looking at. And that's why if you buy my videos, ladies and gentlemen, as you all should, because the cats need good food. If you don't buy the videos, they do not get the good food. They get the bad food. Poor cats. But anyway, as I say in my video, the thing that you need to do, and I learned this from Jeremy Lipkin, is you drink your coffee, you step back, you drink your coffee, and you go, And you do that most of the time, as opposed to frantically brushing, frantically applying paint to the subject. It's amazing how paintings end up having mostly painted themselves if we get out of the way. So this painting is now sitting over at the side, and I'm fighting the paintings that are in the foreground there. The one that it's a Great Northern Railroad train crossing the prairies, and the 3 foot by 6 in the far distance, that one, the horizon line is fairly low. The 2 foot by 4 foot up on the easel now, the horizon is pretty high, because I want to see how it changes how you read it when you move the design that far up. We may discuss this painting next week, because it should be considerably further along, and I think it's good to show the process in how paintings come into being. Neither of these paintings, by the way, do I think are particularly brilliant. They are not painting themselves. I don't know if I'm going to love them when they're done, but one is learning constantly. I always feel like I paint about 40 paintings for every one painting that I really love. And I don't know if any of what you're seeing in this array of paintings are ones that I'm going to love. The one of the arch bridge, which is way over on the right on the picture rail, that one ended up being one that I really loved, that I didn't think I was going to love. And it sold, by the way. It sold right like that. In fact, if you're interested in any of these, just message me directly. We'll make a deal. But anyway, I want you all to see that it's not a magical process at all. It's a deliberate process where, if lucky things happen, you try to allow them to happen. And you're just trying to go for what feels true. It's not necessarily what is the most beautiful, but it's what feels like you're telling the story you were meant to tell. That's all I've got for you this week, ladies and gentlemen. A little visit to the studio. Now, you guys take good care. Be sure to visit my website, hunter-studio.com. Buy the Reasonably Fine Artist wearables. Next week, we should have the Reasonably Fine brush soap up for sale. We've got a soap manufacturer in my studio building, and she and I collaborated on making some soap, some brush cleaning soap. So anyway, please visit hunter-studio.com. Take good care, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.